If governments wanted to slow down the adoption of Bitcoin, they could spend less and go back on a gold standard. It wouldn't kill it, and Bitcoin would still win, but probably slower. So the pace at which this is evolving is entirely driven by the destruction of the currency and the debasement of the currency. And I think Bitcoin is literally the antithesis of fiat. It's the best expression. If you want to see how bad fiat really is, pull up a Bitcoin chart. Don't look at the CPI.
At this point, there's only one single thing that could stop Bitcoin: if governments around the world stopped printing money. However, we know that is never going to happen. That's the latest message out from Zap CEO, Jack Mallers. Jack believes that even if governments attempt to stop Bitcoin's adoption by cutting spending or reverting to a gold standard, Bitcoin would still win. That's because of its fundamental properties such as decentralization and a fixed supply. At this point, there's no stopping the train. In his most recent interview at the 2024 Bitcoin Magazine conference, Jack Mallers broke down his outlook for Bitcoin in 2025 and beyond. He believes if you don't own Bitcoin now, you're going to be left behind. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video where Jack breaks down why fiat money is going to zero. Also guys, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy staying up to date with finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Now here's Jack Mallers with his latest Bitcoin outlook.
I think of Bitcoin as money, and money being the market good that you acquire to save and exchange your time, your energy, your effort, your labor, right? So a cheeseburger is also a market good. An airplane is a market good. You get on the airplane to travel, you consume the cheese, or you acquire the cheeseburger to consume it. You acquire the money to store it and exchange it later. It's the technology we use to take our effort today and bring it to tomorrow. And so that's what Bitcoin is, plain and simple. That's a technology that all humans need, both on Wall Street and those that are at the cypherpunk manifestos in San Francisco. So it's permissionless money, so no one's allowed to tell anyone they can't use it. And so my expectation is if you are a human being and you need to store your time and energy and you need to save and exchange it for things, that you're naturally going to use Bitcoin. So I think it's inevitable in that respect. I also think for those that feel threatened by Wall Street, there's a very nuanced, we should be thankful for Satoshi Nakamoto for all sorts of reasons. One of the more impressive, in my opinion, is how Satoshi launched Bitcoin. I'll say it that way. In that Satoshi Nakamoto did not take Bitcoin to Goldman Sachs to take it public. Satoshi Nakamoto did not list it on the New York Stock Exchange. Satoshi Nakamoto didn't put it on Product Hunt. Put it on an email list and just leaked it. And for that reason, Bitcoin is owned by all of us, by the people. So over half of the gold supply is owned by governments and central banks. I think governments own only 4% of the Bitcoin supply. You've got Michael Saylor, who's borrowing as much money as a human being could possibly borrow. This guy's got billions of dollars of debt, and he's trying to own as much Bitcoin as he can, and he's barely eclipsed only 1%. And so the mere fact that Bitcoin is not concentrated, if Satoshi said, hey, Goldman Sachs, I created a really interesting money, I want you guys to help me take it public, we'd probably have a more concentrated supply. It's the fact that you can custody it in your brain. It's weightless. There's no cost to store and hold it. It's global. And the distribution was through mining, through energy, and through leaking it on a mailing list. There is no threat. I mean, Larry Fink can try his gosh darn hardest and maybe get 5-10% or something, not nearly enough to matter. I mean, you need to own majority of an asset class to manipulate it, to price suppress it. So the fact that we all have it, Satoshi, I think that genius is lost on many, is that we were able to distribute Bitcoin to the people in a sufficient way, which protects us. Sure, Wall Street wants to buy it. Welcome to the party.
Much like purchasing a cheeseburger for a meal or a plane ticket for travel, people use Bitcoin to store value and make transactions over time. But one of the main things that sets it apart from traditional fiat is that it is permissionless. Anyone can access and use it without needing approval from banks or governments. This quality is what makes Bitcoin an appealing option for those who want to better protect their savings and maintain control over their financial assets. As inflation and currency devaluation become increasingly common due to government spending, Bitcoin is gradually emerging as the better choice. Jack even believes that Bitcoin's current rate of growth is so fast that its global adoption is inevitable and practically impossible to stop. Now, let's return to Jack Mallers as he shares more on this perspective.
Well, I think Bitcoin's the best expression of currency debasement. Bitcoin equals technology plus fiat liquidity. So I think a lot of the growth is driven by the destruction of fiat, is the level of deficits and the debt spiral that I think we're probably already in. So I think that's the net catalyst, the overall catalyst. If governments wanted to slow down the adoption of Bitcoin, they could spend less and go back on a gold standard. It wouldn't kill it and Bitcoin would still win, but probably slower. So the pace at which this is evolving is entirely driven by the destruction of the currency and the debasement of the currency. And I think Bitcoin is literally the antithesis of fiat. It's the best expression. If you want to see how bad fiat really is, pull up a Bitcoin chart. Don't look at the CPI. So that's like on net. What I think about it, what I think is interesting about America, with El Salvador, it was a huge deal that a nation state, that a country removed their relationship with the people of money. It's literally the separation of money and the state, and which is why I think a lot of us in this room are interested in Bitcoin. And really, at the end of the day, money is our time and energy in an abstracted form. I talk about it's human effort, it's labor. Like we all get up, we do stuff, and in return for that, we get money. So by proxy, when a government debases our currency, they're debasing you. Not the money itself, but like all your effort, all your time, all your energy. Money, in theory, should represent your contributions to society in like a perfect system. And so the fact that El Salvador said, we don't want to have an influence on that relationship, we don't want to be a part of that relationship, we want that relationship to be up to the free market, because when the US government debases the dollar, they're debasing me and all the time, energy, effort, and labor that I've put into my life in acquiring these dollars. So the fact that El Salvador did that's why it was a monumental step. But they didn't have the ability to print their own currency. They lost their own currency in their own civil war. They were on the dollar. And so I think the next big step would be if a government that has the ability to print and debase and uses a central bank to manipulate and control and influence the time, energy, effort, and labor of the populace and of society, if a government that has that power is able to buy Bitcoin and acknowledge it, not even the legal tender part, just acknowledge it, own it, and validate it, that would be a huge deal. And I actually think the United States of America is probably in the best position to do that, and where I think they're the most likely candidate because they have the world reserve currency. Like the US is like, we're broke, like we just issued debt, like we're, being the world reserve currency implies that we run these massive deficits and we issue all of this debt, right? And so we are the most incentivized to actually start backing our future promises with something real. So I told, my chief of staff is somewhere in the audience. I told him, like, after El Salvador, people would ask me, what's the next? Is it, Guatemala, Argentina? Everyone was like looking on a map, looking through Latin America. I said, it might be the United States. Bitcoin's very American. And the United States, in theory, is technology, innovation, inclusion, equality. Every node on the network is treated equal. You can come and go as you please. So maybe I'm manifesting a little bit. Maybe this is less of a prediction, more of a hope. But I think that would be a really big deal. And as big of a deal as El Salvador was, the next step would be a government that actually can print their money and debase the populace through money printing. If they were to say this Bitcoin thing's legit and we should have some, I think that'd be massive.
Meanwhile, CryptoQuant's latest report reveals that after a period of low activity, demand for Bitcoin is picking up again at a dramatic pace. Last week, there was an increase of 177,000 Bitcoin in monthly demand, the highest amount since April 2024. This surge in demand coincided with a 5% rise in Bitcoin's value, bringing the price to $67,800, a level not seen in over 2 months. The report attributes this renewed interest in Bitcoin to the impact of spot exchange-traded funds, which have recently made significant purchases of nearly 8,000 Bitcoin in a single day, the largest daily buy since July. Throughout the first quarter of 2024, these ETFs averaged daily purchases of 9,000 Bitcoin, helping to drive prices up. If this buying trend continues into the fourth quarter, Bitcoin's price may rise further, especially as this season often brings positive trends for the cryptocurrency. The report also highlights that large Bitcoin investors have raised their holdings to 670,000 Bitcoin, showing a steady growth year after year. This increase in accumulation surpasses the average for the past year, indicating a positive outlook for Bitcoin's price, similar to previous bull markets. As we move toward the next quarter, what seasonal trends do you anticipate for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? Let us know in the comments. Anyway guys, before we go, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, make sure to subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 50,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.